Good evening, everybody. Welcome to True Crime with the Sarge. I'm your host, Joseph Giacalone. Thanks for joining me on this impromptu uh, analysis breakdown. I wanted to talk about the Savanah Soto case and a couple other things. I've been watching the press conferences. I've been watching and reading all these articles and doing some of these things. And, we've been talking on Twitter. We've actually have a decent conversation going back and forth. But I thought I could just if you just lend me your ear, you can hear me out. I could talk about a few things that's not really concerning, but I want to give you a little bit of an insider's view. And the first thing is this: if you watch the press conference was, I think the chief's name was McManus. He did answer some questions. He actually gave out a little bit too much information when he promised he didn't. I'm going to discuss that. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is that at no time has the police department said that the public is in any danger. All right, that's a big thing, because when the police come out and say, the public needs to be on the watch out, and this and that, meaning that they really don't have a clue about what's going on. I think they have an idea of who is responsible for this, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next 24 hours or so that an arrest is made on this case. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because the police have never told us at all that the public should need to be aware of what's going on. So what that means to me, that they believe, the police that is, that the suspects and the victims know one another, whether it was, whatever it may be. We can get into some of a bit of the speculation later on, but that's basically where I'm headed with this analysis in that respect. So if you haven't watched the video, you should do so. The video is the victim's car. Now, it's the car of Matthew Guerra, who is the 22-year-old. It's his car. It is seen pulled up. The lights get shut off. He flashes the lights of this Chevy Silverado, which is a black pickup truck, pulls up alongside. This is in a back alleyway of a residential, apartment building complex. And the two people, we'll call the one guy that we could see in the white T-shirt, we'll call him the not-so-skinny guy, just to be nice, right? So the not-so-skinny guy gets out of the pickup truck, and he hands him the guy that's in the victim's car. They're doing whatever exchange. He hands him a bag of them. It could be the pocketbook. It could be whatever. I mean, we don't know per se what it exactly involved. So the not so skinny guy then struggles to get back in his pickup truck, and he drives away. Yeah, future big boned. Okay, we'll call it that. We'll call it big boned, right? So the big boned guy drives away, and the other guy. Now here's just a quick thing about the car. Whoever's driving the victim's car is pretty familiar with this Kia. He knows how to shut the lights off. He knows how to flash them, right? He does. Listen, I have rented cars before, and if it's a car that's unfamiliar with me, I don't know how to work anything. I mean, I'm struggling and looking for lights, looking for this, looking for that. So this guy who's driving the car is familiar with this model car, or maybe even familiar with that particular car, and that's something that I think we could also think about moving forward in that respect. So he flashes them. They talk, whatever, this and that. Now, at the press conference, I don't know if you guys watched the press conference, but if you haven't, you should. Because a reporter asked the police chief a question saying that do they think that the people were killed elsewhere and then driven to wherever scene that they were? Now, initially, the chief kind of went off on this bit of a tangent and said that he wasn't going to answer questions that weren't specific to what he already talked about. But then he turned around and says, but the answer to your question is yes. So that's another big clue that we really didn't kind of glean off. And a lot of people were kind of missing that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get on this live tonight. Even though it's going to be a short one, I wanted to get out there and talk about this because I think that's another important aspect. Now, investigators are combed the entire area for surveillance video. I can guarantee you this isn't the only surveillance video that they have, especially from this complex and the surrounding areas. The original missing persons came from another town, all right? So the way missing persons cases go, and this can cause a lot of confusion, and it's just basically simple. Wherever you live, that's where the complaint gets filed. Just so happens that the bodies are found in another town that has nothing to do with it, right? So you have a missing persons in one town, which turns into a homicide investigation in another one. And that's what we're dealing with in this aspect. I know sometimes it causes confusion, and if Scott's in the room, he'll he'll tell you it causes a lot of confusion for people. And what happens now is we're starting to do this is what investigators will be doing. So they're doing a canvas of all the areas that this person was last seen and where the location where they were found, and looking for surveillance video. And I guarantee you they have pieced this thing together, or they're piecing this together in that respect. And hopefully they have something that's a little better in regards to the video. Now this one was from a distance. It was a little blurry when they tried to blow it up. Even the big bone guy was, he looked kind of just white and fuzzy, in that picture. So it's important that investigators, look for something else. I mean, you see these videos that they get from Mars, right? And they're just absolutely perfect. And then you get these surveillance videos that come from across the street, and it looks like it came from Mars. It's kind of, they wouldn't, so what is that? They wouldn't also say if she was pregnant still or not. Well, Carrie, the police did say that Matthew was shot in the head, and they said it was a contact wound, which means that the gun was put right up against the victim's head in a contact wound, which means there was probably no stippling, or powder burns, which comes from a distant shot, whatever it may be, a couple inches, a couple of feet, what have you. You could get the gunshot residue and the burning and the stippling. They specifically said it was a contact wound. So it's almost like an execution style type of incident. They didn't mention where Savanah was shot. Initially, they were looking at this as a lover's spat thing, homicide, suicide kind of thing. But the chief clearly stated that this is a capital murder case now that they're looking into. So a lot of the rumors and a lot of things that we have on Twitter, whatever, if you watch the press conference, you can just debunk a lot of the things that are being said on Twitter. Initially when I first saw the video of the car pulling up, I only saw a snippet that was posted, and I originally thought that was the suspect. That was the victims driving up. So you have to be careful about this, because anybody could get trapped up into, when you get a little segment of a little snippet, you can make a bad, observation. So we all have to be mindful of that. So we got the entire video now, but we've watched it. If you haven't watched it, I'll put the link in the show notes so that we can take a look at some of this stuff. So now what happens is we're dealing with the backgrounds, the backstory on these people. And I'll tell you, there was an article that I posted from the Daily Mail. Let's put it this way. The motives for who would want these people dead runs the gamut, right? So as an investigator, you try to look at who benefits from having this person, right? You look at motives, love, money, revenge, drugs, of course. You just runs the gamut. And when you look at what this guy Matthew was involved with, even Savanah, boy, there's a long laundry list of things. So you have the domestic violence case. He's accused or alleged of beating his girlfriend Savanah. One witness said it happens daily. He was arrested for that. He didn't follow up on what he was supposed to do. He got arrested with a firearm. The list goes on and on. But the other interesting aspect is that the Soto family had a 15-year-old brother that was murdered. And just recently in court, they had a brawl between the two families in the court. So when I tell you that motives run the gamut on this, let me tell you something. The police have a real tough job to try to cull through all of this stuff, because, you try to come up with a theory about why something happened, but there are so many things that they can look at and just say, well, this person would want to do something and that person would want to do something, and the list goes on and on. So they have a lot of work ahead of them, and to vet out some of this stuff. And it's just, Karen, lots of motives here, lots of motives. And somebody had asked the question, how does the Daily Mail get these scoops? Well, one thing I've learned about doing the media interviews, the Daily Mail and the Sun, they've been poaching a lot of journalists here from America, and they've been getting some of these stories. But the thing is, what's more important than getting the story out first is to get the story out and be correct too. That's the other thing. So it's not good enough to be first. It's also good enough. You have to be good enough to be accurate too. And we've seen a number of stories and a number of incidents where that has not been the case. I want to put the phone number up because the chief put out 2 phone numbers for the San Antonio Police Department Homicide Squad. And it's 210-207-7647 and also 7440. He said that the you can remain anonymous if you know anything. I would find it very difficult to believe that nobody can ID the guy from the pickup truck. Okay, I think that's what I said. I think the phone calls are probably already coming in. The question is, are they still around? Have they left town? And that's the that's when the hunt goes on, so to speak. So I've always said 3 things solve cases moving forward: cell phone records, internet records, and video surveillance. We have the video surveillance. We don't know anything about cell phone records yet, and we haven't really heard much about the social media. But one thing we know about young kids, they're all on social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, YouTube. They're doing all kinds of stuff. When that stuff stops, that's a bad sign, right? That's a red flag. So I think they can use some of that information to help them with their timeline. When I mean the police, with their investigative timeline, to try to track down exactly what transpired and what happens in regards to that. Tina, thanks for joining. Thank you very much. And it's something that is really important. So you have 3 timelines that the police are going to be looking at here. And moving forward, I want you guys to keep this in mind as you're watching this case develop. You have the victim's timelines, you have the suspect timeline, and you have the investigative timeline. Those 3 timelines are pretty important. And what investigators are trying to do is see where the victims and the suspects come together. Now, for those of the law enforcement men and women that are on here, you know what I'm going to say next is kind of like 101, but a lot of people might not understand this. Those cell phone records are going to play a big role here. What do I mean? When they dump those records, and I'm sure they already have them already because this has been going on for a few days, who they were communicating with prior to. Do they come back to real people? Do they come back to burner phones like we've seen with a couple other infamous cases recently? These are all important things because the mother of the victim, Matthew, made a statement saying that, her son makes money, however he makes money kind of thing, in sum and substance. That's basically what she says, which is kind of questionable, right? So she kind of knows what's going on in that respect, but we don't know exactly what it is, and we're not going to speculate. There's some photos of him that are questionable on the internet. They kind of crop them out on some of the media sites, but the New York Post, they don't care, man. They just put that picture right out there. I posted it earlier with the article. If you wanted to see it, that's on the Twitter thing. So, okay, Candace says his phone was missing and any gun. Yeah, so they haven't let us know if there's any ballistics found, like, shell casings or cartridges. And, yeah, Scott, so Scott says, so mom has an idea what it was, how it was done or what was done. Yeah, exactly. There's something afoot here in regards to that. So, once again, this is just another, motive about what could have possibly happened to these 2. The question comes down for investigators, is this something that Matthew was involved in? Is it something that Savanah was involved with? Does it have to do with the brother's murder from, a year or 2 ago? Does it have to do with something that Matthew did earlier, with the gun charges and all? I mean, when I say that this is potential nightmare stuff for investigators, it is. I mean, there's just so many things that they have to dig up and look into. And quite frankly, the best thing that they can do, meaning the police can do right now, is concentrate on what evidence they can get out of that car. I like to have cars as evidence because they're pretty much contained. They're pretty much, absolvent from the weather, right? It doesn't rain inside the car. It's not, you don't have to worry about it. There was no fire. There's no nothing. So there could be a lot of evidence in that car. We know that one of the suspects or one of the persons of interest was driving the car. So we're looking for touch DNA. We're looking for fingerprints. We're looking for all of that stuff. And that might have already led them to somebody, that they've already been looking into. Now, everything still is, for the police part, is speculative about who killed these things. Just because the guy's driving around in the stolen car doesn't mean he's the one that did it. I know people say, "Come on, Joe," but you got to have the evidence to prove it, guys. We just can't say, "Yeah, because he's driving the car, that he's the one that killed him." You can't. There's not any evidence of that per se. So the police have a lot of work that they need to do, and they can't knock down a car. Yeah, so the car holding that evidence is actually becomes pretty interesting in regards to this. If it's the chief had said that they were killed somewhere else and then transported, this could also provide clues, whether they transfer evidence from that location to where they were put, where they put in the trunk, where they put in the back seat, wherever they were. I can't imagine that he was driving around in the car with them, that they were visible. They could have been maybe laying flat in the back seat or in the trunk or what have you. The police haven't let us know exactly what's going on with that. So we'll have to wait, and we don't want to get into that speculation. And quite frankly, it really doesn't mean anything per se. But we're looking for that transfer evidence. We're looking for. Thank you, Moto, very much. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the donation. I really do. We also want to make sure that as we're looking at what's going on, just guys, we want to stick with the facts. Yeah, we can make judgments on certain things, but honestly, when you're dealing with people that have sketchy backgrounds, let's put it that way, it's not always the reason why, right? There could be something else. Like I said, you have two people involved here. It always takes two to tango, and you need to look at it. You have two sets of families, and anything could be going on with this. It's just unfortunate. That's just the way it goes. I want to read out the San Antonio Police Department number again. It's 210-207-7647 or 7440. The police chief said that you can call anonymously to leave a tip. They did not provide a Crime Stoppers number. So I don't know if San Antonio has a Crime Stoppers. I always prefer police departments to use a Crime Stoppers number, because sometimes when you call the homicide squads, some departments, I'm sure San Antonio is a 24-hour operation, but believe it or not, some places the detectives aren't working 24 hours a day. They're home or what have you. And sometimes the phone calls can get missed. And so, Mandy, yeah, it was ruthless, brutal, in my opinion, drugs. Right. I mean, listen, that is definitely a theory. There's definitely a theory that their investigators are going to go on. So somebody here, Candace, phone records and pings. Yeah, these are all things. Remember, these are all circumstantial evidence kind of things. They still need to find that gun, and then maybe have something on video, maybe wherever this happened. Maybe there is a video somewhere else that we are unaware of yet. They're just hoping that the citizens step up and notify this thing. Hope Ain't Fear, thank you very much for gifting a membership. You've been so good to me. Thank you very much. Hey, Crime Spies. So we want to understand what exactly happened here. Man, this girl was over a week due for her pregnancy, and the chief, like I said this is a capital murder case. So I don't know how Texas law works, but there could be, if these individuals are caught and they have evidence, that there could be 3 murder charges for these guys. If this is the group, right? There could be 3: one for Matthew, one for Sarah, and one for the unborn baby, because the baby was overdue, right? A week. I think she missed her appointment for the inducement. So that's something where I wish Bob was on here today. I guess depending on the state, this is Texas. So I'm going to go with they're going to treat that child as a person. And whoever is involved in this is going to get charged with 3 homicides. That's about as far as I'm going to speculate on, on what's going on in that respect. That they're going to levy 3 homicides against these guys when they catch them. Now, what I hope to hear from investigators in the next 24 hours is that they have a lead on this truck, right? It's a Chevy Silverado. They said, I know some people said it looks like a Ford 150. The police said it was a Chevy Silverado. So right now, that's what I'm going to stick with, that it's a Chevy Silverado. So we're getting his name is Fabian. So the baby already had a name that he was going to be Fabian. Thanks, I'm sent. And that's something that, it's a terrible story when you think about all this stuff. And now you have 2 more families that are going to be devastated going forward. Like I said, the Savanah, Soto family, they already went through this with her 15-year-old brother. Now the family's going through this with her. and it's so Future saying it is a Chevy. Yeah, I'm not too good with my pickup trucks. And everyone's got one. Yeah, they kept it. Well, Candace, if you watch the video, he shuts the lights off and then hits the flashers before to let the guy in the pickup truck know that that was his friend, so they know that. Hey, Peter, how are you? So we know that it's something that I saw right away, and like I said, initially I jumped thinking it was the victims notifying that the suspect, like they were going to meet up and do something. But I used the word nefarious when I put out that tweet earlier, but it seems as if that part of it was right. Just that the fact that this was not the victims, that they were already gone before that even incident already happened. The question is saying now that the victims were found that they were at that location for a couple of days, according to the police. So this is something, another interesting aspect of it. Now, going through the estimated time of death and the changes in postmortem changes in the body, which everyone on our feed here, with all my quizzes I've been giving you about postmortem interval, you should be kind of onto that. So livor mortis and rigor mortis and all those other things, looking into it and then trying to piece this together with the surveillance video and try to track down something specific in regards to the time, right? So we have a time when they were reported missing. That's not the time that this event happened. It could have happened before, it could have happened after. It's really important to understand the time because that's what leads you to your suspects. And we were well schooled, CHS. Well, I give you those quizzes not because I want to see if I can stump you guys, is because those are the things that, if we're going to be a true crime community and people who have haven't done this for a living, these are the things that you need to know. Even the cops need to know this stuff. And Scott's here and Pete Pranzo's here. They'll tell you that you need to know everything you can about the postmortem interval, because it's really important about establishing that estimated time of death, because you need 3 elements for a suspect. You need MOM, means, opportunity, and motive. I wrote about it in both of my books. It's something that is really important. The thing is that, the opportunity is where you really need to focus in on. And that's the time that the suspect, were they available to commit the crime? So it's not just good enough to like somebody for the crime. I put like in the air quotes. Investigators could like people, but if they find out that they were somewhere else, they have a good alibi, they were with somebody who vouched for them, they were in jail, they were at work, whatever it may be. Those are all important aspects of it, and that's how you eliminate suspects. And it was one of the things that I brought out in the Rex Heuermann investigation, when his attorney says there were other suspects, they were going to arrest somebody up. And I said, good. You want as many suspects out there, and the police can then discount them so that they can exclude all others. We don't want to see them make a mistake. We don't want to see them rush. And I do get a little concerned. I won't say nervous. I do get concerned now in the last few years with the big social media push and the true crime communities about the pressure that's put on police departments to solve some of these cases and to do it quickly, because that's how you make mistakes. You can't rush these things. You can't do them quickly. You can't just come up with things, because that's how mistakes happen. And we have some big cases that are coming up in the next few months, and a lot of that's going to be examined. It's going to be put to the test. And I want to see, in this case specifically, what kind of pressure we're going to see. I heard about it, the poop kind of hit the fan the last couple of days, but this case has been going on for over a week, and it's finally starting to gain some steam. And it's because one of the victims here was overdue in her pregnancy. That's for sure, because a lot of times if you watch or go back when this thing first happened, boy, the speculation was running. Oh, it's got to be the boyfriend. Oh, it's got to be this, right? She's pregnant. He didn't want the child. All that stuff you heard online, I kept quiet because we want the facts to come out. We want things to happen. Yes, you as an investigator, if you want to think all that stuff, but you need evidence and you need to do things. Sometimes it's better to hold back your opinions on certain things, not because you want to be right, whatever this thing, because we really don't know. We have no idea what evidence they have. The police never tell you exactly what they have. And it's for obvious reasons, because there are things that only the perpetrator will know that you don't tell the public, because anybody picking up a newspaper or reading an internet article could know exactly what happened at the crime scene or what transpired and then try to take credit for it. And yes, before you even ask me, yes, there are people that will try to take credit for certain things that happen because they just want to be famous. Just look at like a guy like Mark David Chapman, who basically said he wanted to be famous. And it's just something that you just want to Pokemon. Yeah, I wait for you. Thanks. I mean, that's. Hey, Joe, watching from the UK. Love the quizzes. Great, Beverly. Thank you. So I did get before I'm gonna be closing this up in a minute, but I have a couple of big things headed, and we're gonna talk about it quickly. First of all, I will keep up on this case. If something breaks tomorrow, I might jump on again. It might be a last minute thing. If you can't go catch the live, that's fine. If you want to catch the replay, guys, I love you too. That's awesome. But a couple of good things coming on. I got, on Monday the 1st, we're going to have at 12 o'clock, we're going to do a year end and a future cases review. I actually have a couple of surprise guests that will come in. Some of them you already know who they are. And we're going to come talk about some future cases and some current cases. On Tuesday, I have a former FBI profiler, and we're going to be discussing what he did and how it works and what he's going to be doing. He's actually working a couple of current big cases right now. We're going to be able to talk about one. There's one case we can't talk about yet because it's still an active, ongoing investigation that no one knows he's involved with yet. So we can't talk about one, but we can talk about this other one. And then, so that'll be, if anything that shows up for tomorrow, I'll jump on that and we'll let you know. But I did get somebody had sent me constructive criticism and said that I look at the comments too much and I try to. I understand that. I'm not trying to be rude to the guests or whoever I'm trying to do. I'm just a one-man show. I try to make sure when people ask a question, I try to answer them. And the comments is the only way I do it. So I got complaints that my eye contact with the thing is not good. So I try my best. So if you're watching and it is what it is, I understand. But I have to try to keep everybody happy. I'm still trying to recruit the boss to help me out, but she's got her own things. She's got her own things going on, and she said she will try to learn some of this stuff. She's actually a little bit worse than I am when it came to the internet. I've actually learned a lot recently, so that's just the way it goes. So I will. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. I try to, I'm just trying to just do my best to try to get you guys some information and get some stuff out there and do this stuff. So I promised I said a half an hour, so I'm just going to be ending it now. But I want to thank you guys for coming out. If I don't see you tomorrow, I want to wish you a happy new year ahead of time. If not, join me on the 1st, Monday the 1st at 12 o'clock. We're going to have a good time. We're going to be, like I said, bringing in some guests. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. We're going to be talking about some cases, and it should be a good time. All right. So thanks for jumping on, guys. I appreciate it. You have a great night and happy new year, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye night. Bye-bye.